Welcome to another episode of Roll Off a Tangent. Today we have a very special episode. Anthony, our very own, has written a short story and entered it into a writing competition and got honorable mention. So today we're just going to discuss his experience with all of that, getting his story to the into the competition, to get people to read it, and then to all this stuff that I'm sure every aspiring writer wants to know. So, and with that, let's start off with how about you give us a quick overview of the story, Anthony?
Sure, will do. Thanks again, guys, for reading my story. Of course, that's how I met all of you, is that you found one of my stories
That's
drifting.
right.
Oh, you found one of my stories drifting as an orphan across the internet where someone had taken it and republished it on their website with my name, but without my permission. But yeah, so it's good to come back again and have you guys chat about my story. This story is called Pieces of Mind, and it's set in a budding universe of my own creation with a a mental magic system or a sort of a world of psychic beings where everyone sort of has a psychic power of some degree. And I came across this on Instagram, as you do. I came across a writing competition, several, because as you explore, the internet starts to gain more and more information about you, and it starts tailoring advertisements slyly to your wants and needs and desires and hopes and dreams. And it said, "Hey, there's this thing called Writing Battle. We have an Instagram page. Why don't you come and join in?" So for a nominal fee, I joined in, and with about, I don't know, a few thousand other aspiring writers that wanted to win glory, cash, and prizes, or at least just well, for me, it was less about the cash and more about the getting disciplined in writing and having an external deadline for myself given to me by someone else, because otherwise I procrastinate forever in my writing endeavors. So anyway, Pieces of Mind is about the travails of two of these people, these psychic people, in this world where there are floating chunks of land in the sky, supposedly raised some point in the distant past by psychic power itself into the sky to escape some sort of calamity on the world below, the surface of this world, this unnamed world that we're on. And it follows the exploits of a ferryman named Jorgin who ferries people through the sky on a sky skiff. And on this particular day, he's ferrying a woman who is named Aaera, and Aaera is of a class of people in this society that is unfairly stratified. She's of a different skin color that's favored, and also of a level of psychic power that is more favored in this society that is stratified. And it is also the challenge that this writing battle gives you is that it gives you a genre. It selects for you a genre and a couple other prompts that you have to incorporate into your story. You get a chance to flip through some of your prompts a little bit, but I flipped through and I finally settled on first. The genre they gave me was heist. It was a heist genre that I had to write. I'm like, okay, but I didn't want to do a stereotypical Ocean's 11 sort of thing. And I'm like, well, how can I make it fantasy and how can I kind of subvert things a little bit, hopefully? And the other prompts were museum and ferryman. And I'm like, okay, museum, ferryman, and a heist. I'm like, okay, stealing something from a museum. So I kind of went with that, but the ferryman is not just a ferryman on the water; he's a ferryman on the sky, in the sky. And the story follows their exploits as Aaera co-ops Jorgin, an innocent ferryman with a wife who just wants to go about his daily business of his honest work. Aaera basically conscripts him into her heist, and we follow the story from there and what happens. So that's Pieces of Mind. So, gentlemen, once again, I'm happy that you picked the story to read, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
Yeah, just a quick thing that we usually mention this like at the end, but I'm sure that we're gonna put down the link to this story in comments or maybe the description down below so you guys can give it a
Yeah.
look. And I was wondering what those 3 cards were like, because at the beginning, right before I started reading the story, there was like genres: heist, setting, museum, and character ferryman. So those were given to you, and you had to work with
Yes. Yeah.
those. Okay,
Yes.
and then
That's what the cards were. Yeah.
and from what I
When you go
understand,
to the site.
the restriction was that it had to be 2,000 words, correct? Something
That
like
was the
that.
other restriction, is that you have a word limit of 2,000 words, and you have to use their prompts. Those 3, the genre they pick for you, and the other genres were sword and sorcery, which is kind of where I live mostly. But I was like, let me do something different. Vampire romance and alternate history. So, and it's
Vampire
interesting. The concept,
romance. Oh man,
yeah.
incredible.
But
Should have picked that.
it's interesting. And then it's the contest is I know the contest is it's peer judge. So then it's writing battle, because they call. So then, as a writer during the time period, you write your story, you put it on the site, and then you anonymously kind of judge 2 other people's stories. There's 5 pairs of 2 duels. So you do 5 duels where you read 2 other people's stories, you give them constructive criticism, and then you judge which one you like the best. So there's 5, you do that 5 times, and people did that for me 5 sets of time. So, and then my story was picked 6 times out of 10. So that gives you an honorable mention. So, as a story. So there's, any story that has 6 or more people judge them as the winner, you get an honorable mention. If you get 7 people or above voting for you, you then move on to like the final rounds, where it's not peer judged anymore. It's published writers judge your stories. And then finally there's one winner. But there's like first, second, and third place. So
Okay.
that's the contest. So
In
yeah.
between the rounds, as you're being judged, do you then, after you've been judged, have time to edit that and then have them look at the newer
Yeah.
version, or is just that? Yeah, you do? No.
No, it's the story is the story is when you publish it, it stays that way for the
That's
whole
it.
contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the benefit is getting a lot of feedback, which was great. So I feel like for the for the fee, I think it was $20 or something. You get some feedback. You get access to a community of people, which I appreciated, that we were kind of communicating on forums in between, but you can't reveal your story or whatever during the peer judging process. You have to be careful, but you can communicate with other writers, which is helpful. You can get their feedback at the end, which is also helpful. But yeah, so it's but no editing during the process. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Just thought I'd get those questions out of the way so we get a bit of a fuller understanding in
sure,
which kind of conditions you were working with. Because it is important to
yeah,
understand a piece of art, not only how it's written, but when and why, right? So, okay, so this was
yeah,
made for a
sure,
competition. You had the 2,000 words limit. You needed to follow a strict set of things. So that's the type of merits that I would try and sort of look at it from, as well as like, is
yep,
it actually interesting to read, and so on and so forth. So,
sure,
right, the ferryman you got there, right? You've got the heist, which is like the brain, right? Like the brain that they're trying to get at the end.
yeah,
And then
Except that they
what
got
was the?
reverse heist.
Yeah, they got unheist.
They
So
got
to
reverse
speak.
yeah,
heisted.
kind of flipped it.
Uh,
Yeah, so it's trying to
yeah,
subvert your expectations.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Okay.
but obviously
And
spoilers for
then
the story if anyone's listening.
yeah,
So go ahead.
obviously, yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%. And museum, right? That's where it was. That's where the brain was located. So that there you go. You've
Yep.
done that. So basic minimum. You already got me there. Um, as far as the introduction to the world itself is concerned, I knew you've got 2,000 words, but I think it would have been good to just have at least 1 or 2 sentences describing the things surrounding us a little bit. Because for
Yeah.
some reason, at the very beginning, my mind decided that they're like in a desert and there's like clouds around the desert.
Mm.
That's what was
Okay.
in my mind. But so I didn't exactly get it, that the idea that it was like, oh, it's floating within, like within air, and there's like
Mm.
islands in this air, within this air, and whatever,
Okay.
right? But that is a very small nitpick. The way the characters get introduced was satisfying to me. I really enjoyed uh, Jordan himself as a character. He seemed like this unwilling, just like you described, protagonist, an individual who's forced to be in this situation. And not only that, but from the very beginning, we realize that the person they're interacting with, whoever they are, this high caste psychic, she has the upper hand. She understands the way Jordan works. She can feel his emotions and stuff, that he's lying or he's telling the truth. So the power dynamic is very well established. She's very scary. I like the stuff that she does.
Good.
There was also some good world building there in the middle. And as I also liked the psychedelic nature of the ending, because to me it almost feels like the way that you wrote it kind of represents the idea of a shattered mind. It's like you get the essence of what the words are trying to say in the end, but they are a little bit scrambled. Like one would have, like your mind scrambled, and they would have these words sort of pop out almost inwardly without any strong connection, only loose, like sinew that holds them together. So that was a good way to work with it. Overall, I get a feeling that there's a lot of like stuff that you have within you that you want to tell about this world, and this was like an opportunity for you because I can feel a lot of passion and love behind the words. Um, some of the stuff that I feel like you could have cut was like there was some description of how amazing her fur and coat and whatever like what made out of those worms were. Like that's good world
Yeah.
building, fantastic stuff. But I would cut that first before not having the description of like how the area looks like, because that's very
Yeah.
important for the basic, thought of a reader, right? Getting the feeling of the environment you're surrounded. Yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff is just like small things. Things were like, okay, I understand why you kept this here, or but wouldn't we use this space better if we wrote this instead, right? And so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But it is 2,000 words. And in like in a span of 2,000 words, you have to tell
Yeah.
the story, right? Like, so, yeah,
And
it's
they give
hard. It's
you
very hard. Yeah.
and yeah, just I'm sorry not to interrupt, but and I forgot to mention they also give you a week to do it. So you have to write and edit it. You have to write and self-edit a story to prep it for publication on the site in a week. So that was
Jesus.
also another restriction. So yeah, 2,000 words in about a week. Yeah, yeah. So that was tough too. But anyway, so just to give that caveat as well was another restriction.
Thanks.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Nikki.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that helps a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Just all of the stuff, the spiraling, hovering shards of Earth in the sky. It's a very great visual. So overall, if I would have read this and I wouldn't know all of the restrictions and all that stuff, I would have been like, it's okay, right? Like readable. There's some interesting ideas, but some places are undercooked. Knowing that it's like 1 week, 2,000 words, blah blah blah. I mean, it's a much higher tier worth of production, knowing the restrictions. So yeah, overall I enjoyed it, even for what it was, and not just the fact that this was something made by somebody I know for a competition. It was also like fun to interact with, especially the ending.
cool,
These are
cool.
my initial thoughts, anyway.
Hmm.
XJ, Robert.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll have a few words to say. Actually, with regard to Nikki's first point about the environment, I didn't have that problem. I don't know why not, but for some reason I was quite aware straight off what the environment was. It reminded me a lot of the floating crags on Pandora in the film Avatar.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
the new what's it called, movie is coming out soon if it's not out already.
Right.
Number 3.
Right. And I want to say that I've read it twice. And the second time, I was really impressed more than even the first time. The first time I thought it was good, but the second time I was very much more aware that Anthony feeds the reader with his mysteries at just the right pace. He doesn't make you feel choked with them, but on the other hand, he keeps piling them on one after the other in quite an efficient way. For example, this business of the taline, the sliver that makes the area psyche dominate her victim. Very well done. Well, it couldn't be better. And the final mystery, which is this brain. Oh, well, it's full of unanswered questions, but you expect that. I don't feel resentful at all that the questions are unanswered. I would very much like to know why the brain just lets itself be killed so easily, but you can't ask for too much in just 2,000 words. So I think this deserves a very high score.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm.
XJ, you're
Yeah.
up,
So I have a few questions for you before I get into my thoughts. Like, how were you feeling when you were writing this? When you were doing this over that week? Was it very stressful for you? Was it?
Yeah, it was a little stressful. I mean, in terms of, but it was also hopeful. It was also like, listen, I have to be really honest and candid. It's, hey, I just turned 50, and you hit these milestone birthdays and you're like, I've dabbled in this writing thing to a greater or lesser extent for decades. Sort of it was like, why did it appeal to me? Like, okay, you think of writing contests, give us a little bit of money and we'll judge your stuff. But it was like, you know what? Maybe if I could, let me see what I can do. I'm going to put myself up against other people. Could I win a little bit of a prize here? Could I achieve something going up against thousands of other writers? So it was sort of like a challenge for me. So it was just like I was feeling like hopeful and stressed during that week, and just letting these ideas out that I've been percolating. So it's like when you're trying to do world building and you're trying to be like Brandon Sanderson or whatever. I don't know how he does it, but he creates all these worlds. His writing style aside, it's like the sheer creativity. It's like I have these ideas and I'm like, but trying to think about writing a whole novel and biting with a whole novel to tell the story of the world is like, come on. It's like so intimidating for someone who's published a few short stories here and there in small unknown publications. And so it's just like, okay, let me just like dive into it with a short story. Let me explore some of this world, and can I compress some world building and start flexing some of these ideas in a story? So yeah, it was an interesting experience. It was exhilarating at times. It was frustrating. It was the whole gamut of those emotions. So yeah, but it's interesting. It kind of was a lot going on in my head, and not to say that there was a lot of my hopes riding on this, but it's like it has spurred me to be like, okay, I need to write more consistently. That has been my curse. I think it's the curse of any writer, is consistency is key. I mean, that's any endeavor in life, right? If you want to get good. So it's sort of spurred me in a lot of those different ways, and those were the feelings that were coming up and thoughts that were coming up.
So it's been a really empowering experience, is what I'm hearing. You finally got a chance to say what's on your mind about a few things, and then you have always wanted to do this thing, and then you made yourself do it, and then you're feeling pretty proud of yourself, eh? Right now, can I say that?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty accomplished and pretty proud. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool, man. And did you feel like you have? Well, I suppose it's a bit of an odd question coming just off what I said, but did you feel like you achieved what you set out to do? Like, what have you achieved and what didn't you?
I feel like I achieved like getting a foothold in this world, by fleshing it out rather than just being amorphous thoughts in my head and ideas and notes jotted down. It just feels like unfinished sculpture. You have all these notes, you're typing them out. You're like, oh, this would be cool, and this would be like the way the psychic power works, and these are like what they call the body, is what they call the mind, is what they call the soul, and developing this cosmology. But then to actually write out a story with people that you follow, actual beings like with agency, like that breathes life into it. So it's a matter, and you start sculpting it. So yeah, and the feedback's great. Even the feedback that you guys are giving me now, the one key thing I wanted to say was like Robert said, like, what's the motivation of the brain? And you know, it's mysterious and it's meant to be left, but I think I didn't make it clear enough at the end that the third mind, when Jorgin touches the sliver that's still embedded in his hand that Aaera had put into it, the third mind he heard was the brain. So not only was Aaera part of him now, but that mysterious brain from the below was also in part of him again. So I feel like if I would have just changed the sentences at the end a little bit to say it was the third mind was that other brain, that so maybe answer your question, Robert, that's why it allowed itself to be killed, because a brain in a jar can't go anywhere. It was a captive, powerful as it is, it was held captive. So this was its means of escape, basically. So in the form of taking over or being a part of at least a body again. Because in this world, the body, mind, and the psyche are inextricably linked, and a brain without a body has no fuel source. So it really is trapped. So in order to get out, it had to kind of orchestrate and trick these people into doing a heist, So, and with more words, I could flesh this story out. My hope is to expand this story and to give it more flesh, and to expand that out and make things more clear that way.
Right.
So
I very much look forward to seeing a more fleshed out story, man. But that's great to hear that this ideas that's been rummaging around your mind is starting to become real to you. I've already told you some initial thoughts, and I think I would just kind of disagree with Nikki a little bit about Nikki, I disagree with you about the clothing thing, because I feel like it sets up a very, very clear and distinct class division there. It was already obvious from the start, but it wasn't. But the costuming made it more categorical. If that comes across, I'm not sure if that comes across well, but it's just like you can get the sense of it, but that woman could just have been somebody who's rich, but with the clothing, it just drives like a very clear divide, because one is wearing literally the dirt. The other one is wearing something else.
And stuff.
Right. So
and I was trying to I mean, just to also interject something that's kind of come to mind when you bring that up. I was trying to, later on you see someone harvesting the worm, right? The crevice worm. So, and you see how dangerous it is. The worms live on the underside of these floating rocks, these floating islands. So he has to strap himself down there with sinews and all whatever materials these people have. It's a very resource poor civilization too, because they're up in the air, and all they have are these chunks of sky and these creatures that they fly around. So, and they have to catch these giant bats, that are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So that's expensive, the leather from the bats. And then there's the crevice worms, where you have to hang underneath of these rocks and maybe be preyed upon by the crag bats while you're harvesting these worms that are fighting to not be plucked out of the stone. So that sort of was I tried to kind of pay off why it was hard to harvest them and why that fabric around her legs was so expensive. So but anyway, so just
I thought
give some more.
I thought that was very well crafted cultural world building there. This is quite quickly sets up the differences between the two of them and where they come from. I'm also like I said, the setting, it reminded Well, for Rob, it reminded him of Pandora in Avatar. But for me, it was more... The first thing that actually leapt to mind was The Last Exile. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. It's an anime. It
No.
was all airships. And it's very steampunk. Yeah. So...
Okay.
Anyhow,
Check it out.
so it did kind of reminded me of that, and there was a lot of struggle. Like I think, if I remember correctly, the biggest struggle was for water. I think, yeah. But yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what would be the resource struggle in your world. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, they're up on. They can't go down to the earth. They can't go through the clouds below them because it's full of like mysterious creatures or whatever. Or I have to flesh that out too. There's creatures that live in there. It's acidic in places, and so it's poisonous.
Yeah, I'm
in
on
some
the
spots.
second reading. I'm like totally, because I didn't quite catch it on the first read through, but on the second read through, I'm very intrigued by what's actually in the white.
Yeah, it's that's kind of what's going to be in there. So it's dangerous in and of itself. Like the clouds are poisonous and there's creatures there. And then and then if you have all the only resources, the creatures you can catch, or like the specks of land. Rain, I feel like would be easy for them. I see the clouds are below them. So how do they collect water? That's a good point. Like I need to kind of explore that more, because rain would be from below, from clouds down to the ground, right? So it's that's an interesting thing for me
Condensation
to explore
farms,
too.
moisture
Yeah, maybe,
farms.
so and it's interesting. It's like, yeah, I knew going into it, like, okay, flying specks of land, flying chunks of land, that's been done in Avatar. It's been done so many other times in other places. But I'm like, okay, but I like the idea. So it's like, yeah,
No,
that
it's.
was a weird thing for me
I
too.
think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like I'm also pretty intrigued by the mentalist angle. Like I said, it's just so. Just indulge me one question.
Mhm.
Is it a cultural thing that telepathy is placed above telekinesis, or is this like a real thing? Because
Yeah.
like I wrote to you before, right? I don't see why Aaera couldn't pilot the skiff on her own. Why she would need Jorgin if she is such a powerful mentalist, unless her type can't do telekinesis, which is what I would assume Jorgin does. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, okay, yes, telepathy is quite can be quite powerful. We all know Charles Xavier, but then
To me, by X-Men.
no mentalist powers is going to stop a giant rock from crushing their heads. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I'm like thinking like my dice rolls.
Yeah, you're thinking from a gamer perspective, right? No, that's good. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think that everyone, I feel like, has a mix of powers. Like I didn't really think too far into it where it was like, but she sort of needed a human shield. She needed a patsy. She needed an extra body there because she knew, and I could maybe slip this into the dialogue a little bit, maybe if I rewrite and expand the story, like, oh, she needed him for Annie to kind of say, speaking of gaming, you have hirelings in role playing, right? In D&D. It's like, okay, you guys go first into the next room and see if you guys set off any traps or whatever. Or she could leave his body there. Maybe she was expected to kill him and leave him there, and he would be the one. Oh, well, look, this guy from this lower class broke into the museum, and case closed. So he was a patsy, basically. He was a unwilling accomplice that she could just use as she needed, to kind of be the patsy, and to take any traps that might have go off, that he would be killed first. Again, in that hireling style of gaming. So yeah.
Right. Well,
But the interaction of the powers, yeah, the telepathy versus the sight, yeah, yeah. So I have to flesh that out. Do some people have more of a talent for one or the other? Yes, probably.
so I
But think about
basically
it.
caught you out with my munchkin mindset.
Yeah, 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 a little bit of it.
But
Yeah, it's something to be fleshed out.
just a suggestion. You know what could have been done to really push the idea of the telepathy being like way above, like a tier above telekinesis would have been if the idea to bring Jorgin along was planted by the brain in a very subtle way. You know,
Yeah,
brainwashed Aaera was brainwashed without even her knowing it.
yeah,
That would have,
yeah. That's something to kind of. Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting.
yeah. And I think, yeah, the other thing that didn't quite work for me was I never really grasped what was driving Aaera. Like I know she wants to get to the treasure, but why did she need the treasure? But you know, to the extent that she was willing to let some pervert put his hands on her.
Yeah,
But you know, if the brain was the one that planted all these suggestions, I don't think you really need
yeah,
a powerful one. Anyway, I would be really interested to see how you take it,
Sure.
which direction you take it, and the only other the one series of works that comes to mind where psionics play such a huge role in the world building is Dark Sun.
Dark Sun.
yeah,
And
yeah. The
also,
old,
oh god. No, it wasn't Birthright. You know what? I don't think in Birthright it was anything to do with psychic powers. I think it was the power of the bloodline. So never mind. Yeah, I think Dark Sun is the only one. You're right, actually.
Yeah, but also I think I'm thinking back to Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh yeah.
Because it just got triggered in my mind, like how some of the and the what do they call those, the ancestors,
The cast. You mean?
the antediluvians, something,
the clans,
the ones that are really old.
antediluvians.
Yes,
Yeah, the antediluvians.
the
Yeah,
Cains and then the Abels and all those, they could plant suggestions on their spawn, and they wouldn't
yeah.
even know that they were working towards that goal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very insidious.
Yes. Yeah, that's something that I'm hoping to incorporate more over time for sure. If I write, I'm trying to write more stories and expand this one, and so yeah, that would definitely be something to explore. And that's it's interesting because I did start writing some other stories or tidbits where it was like, there was another heist by another gang in another facility where it's like, yeah, like the guards can influence your mind, and like how to write that where someone was just like, someone's running up a staircase towards some guards and trying to like attack them, and then all of a sudden, like the next paragraph, he's like, he continued to run down the steps, and then so it's like he changed direction, and you as the reader are like, you just see that jump from paragraph to paragraph where it's a totally different description. So I'm trying to experiment on how like I can mess with the reader's mind and not annoy readers, by saying like, wait, what do you mean? He's running down the steps, and then the character realizes like, oh man, they just did that to me. You know what I mean? So like the character has to realize, and then the reader realizes. So I'm trying to experiment with like how you can mess with the reader's mind a little bit as you're also messing with the minds of the characters. So I'll have to like finish that story so I can let you guys read that as well.
I also just want to point out that the scene where the worm harvester, what's his what do you call his occupation, the resignation when he dropped himself off, that was very powerful.
Yeah, cool.
Creepy.
Thank you.
Creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. So think about it, like, yeah, even if you have telekinesis, they can, like Professor X, you can stop you with his mind from like even doing some telekinesis against him, right? So yeah, but thank you. Yeah, I thought that was a neat scene too, but and shows the power of what she can do, yeah, for sure. So it's not just threats anymore. It's like she's like shows you what she can do with her mind. So yeah.
Yeah, it basically showcases you the reason as to why Jordan was so afraid in the first hand, right? Like you have the build up to like,
Right.
okay, he's afraid, but why? And then you get this is why.
Yeah, yeah. And then if I had more words to, I want to when I expand the story, I can kind of make the break in a little more elaborate. Like maybe have some sort of other obstacles that they have to face. So I'm looking forward to maybe doing that. I have some like creepy. It's like the society has to be creepy because of the lack of resources. So they kind of like dice up, people too. Like to kind of take they have to harvest from people, not just from their environment, but from each other. So it's sort of a cannibalistic society in ways. I'll just leave it at that. Not necessarily eating, but like using body parts. So it's sort of like not just the brain. So it's like they have to they're really stripped down. So it's a more macabre, gothic. And I thought it was gothic anyway. Like, okay, you have to wear bat leather. That's very gothic. You have to wear worm fibers. That's
Man,
one step away from
I'm
wearing spider webs.
seriously getting Dark Sun vibes here.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
But in the
resource
sky.
poor and
See
In the
why
sky.
I saw the
But in the sky.
desert? Do you get it? See why I saw the
There you
desert?
go.
I see.
Hey, that's why you had dark sun on the brain. Yeah, and then there's one thing I wanted to kind of bounce off of you all too. Like, I was struggling for like a word for the mentalism, the power. So it's the psyche. Spelling the real world word is psyche, but I spelled it a little differently. But some people that gave me feedback online in the contest were like, "Oh, is this the real world kind of post-apocalyptic Earth?" Where like that word is obviously of Greek origin, right? So it's a real world word. And I'm like, okay, like it started me thinking like maybe I should change it to like something that's like not necessarily earthbound if I want to make this a different world. But I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on where you thought this took place and what you thought of that use of that word psyche. If you had any thoughts on that.
I
And
pretty much
yeah, go on.
I pretty much thought it was far future. Uh, and I
Okay.
wrote that down. I think I was like, Rob would probably love that.
Okay.
Like a far future human
I kept
thing.
jumping in between of is this another planet or is this our horrible future? So I couldn't at the very end still couldn't really understand whether it was that or this. So I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was
Okay.
by design
I
this way.
think it's perfectly fine to just like make it a mystery that you yourself don't even know.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about you,
Robert, I
Robert?
don't know if
What
you
do
had
you
any
think?
thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I took it to be another planet, I must admit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it didn't
Just
bother you that I was using like an Earth word for like a power on
no.
another
I
planet?
mean, aren't all of them Earth words? Like all of everything you write is English, right? I mean, anyway.
That's
Yeah.
true. I knew, but I don't know. I guess it didn't bother you. It didn't Robert? You didn't have an
No.
issue?
No, I mean, after all, we could say that English is a kind of cosmic language anyway. It's
Yeah.
inherent in the fabric of reality, so it crops up all over the place, you see.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and it's interesting because like I'm trying to develop like it's I'm not like a linguist, like so I don't necessarily want to get into the weeds of like creating a whole new language. That doesn't interest me. Like it's the stories and plots and the things
Mm.
that I want to talk about are not languages, but like should I invent like a word, that seems I was trying to invent like a word like that sounds similar to psyche but spelled differently, like Seki or something like Sehki or something like, something that seemed like maybe vaguely Egyptian, but I don't know. I'm kind of going through that creative process too, of
If
like when you're
you
creating
if
these
you don't
fantasy
want
worlds.
any association with any language or anything like that, you go a bit generic. You just say the gift.
Mm.
Yeah, right. You could just make it
Yeah, I
English,
was about
right?
to say go the Robert Jordan direction, the one power.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Mm.
thing
Okay.
that makes this different than other things.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
There's one
Okay.
linguistic point I want to make, in that this woman, Aaera, being a villain, naturally has to speak perfect English, because that's what villains do.
No. Or they speak very broken English with a slight Russian or German accent.
So anyway,
Yeah.
let me quote, if only we could dare the carnivorous white like them. A proper villain would say they. Because the verb to
Like
be,
they?
the verb to be does not take an object.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So she was almost grammatically correct.
See, it
Okay.
goes with we, doesn't it? If we're only we, like they, could
Yeah,
dare.
yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you use them, you're making it the object, in which case it changes the meaning. If you don't
Okay.
want.
Good point. See, I'm not a
Anyway.
linguist. I'm not a grammatician, grammatician, or how you say that
No,
word.
no, you may not be, but this villain has got to be. You see.
Yes. I gotcha. Okay. Good point. That's something I hadn't thought of. Okay.
I highly suggest editor. Can I
Yes.
can I recommend Robert's services?
There you go.
Incredible.
Now listen, do all villains have to have a British accent too? You have to have a
Right.
British accent.
I suppose the only industry we've got left.
Right. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah, interesting. So, I'll have to revisit because it's like, reading some, again, not to bring up Brandon Sanderson again, but versus like, yes, Robert Jordan was very much interesting that Sanderson finished The Wheel of Time because Sanderson kind of like comes up with all these different terms, I feel like sometimes, like, but they're not necessarily like obscure or made up, like some of the abilities and powers and magic systems. So yeah, I'll have to muse on that because the other thing is like, yes, lean into the far future things. So I could use Latin or Greek bases for like these because like then you could call the brain something like the cerebrum or I don't know, the cortex or something, or I don't know, or you can call the body the corpus.
Yeah.
The corpus is the body.
That's
So you
what
could
Shin
have this
Wolf does.
triumvirate.
Yeah, that's what
What's
Shin
that?
Wolf does in the Book of the New Sun. He's very, very, very far future, but he uses Latin for some
Yeah.
language between now and then, which he doesn't specify.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of pay homage to like those. Yeah, I've read the Book of the New Sun. I've read like the Jack Vance stuff. So it's like paying homage to that far future. So it's like, yes, you can use that like so the triumvirate like of this abilities is like you need the corpus, the body to power the mind because a brain, and the characters are going to get into this, but a brain without a body is like a hungry thing. It is like a vampire. It is a psychic vampire. It's an energy vampire because the body's processes need to fuel the brain, which fuels, and the brain is the conduit for the psyche. So it's like there's this when you take a piece out, like a disembodied brain is something that is a monster. It craves a body again. So it's sort of like a macabre thing that I wanted to kind of incorporate into the cosmology or the power structure of of this of the powers of this the magic system, the psychic system
The
of
psychic
this world,
system,
so to speak. Yeah. So a brain is just it has to be fed like spinal fluids and stuff like that. So that's what it was. I didn't get into that either, but like that jelly in that brain was in that canister was like jellified, like nervous, like spinal fluid. So it's like I wanted to get like very kind of gothic and macabre that way. Sort of like I had just watched
It definitely
we
was.
were anticipating. Yeah, we were just anticipating watching the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein too. Like that was upcoming at that point. It hadn't come out yet, but I was like, I was thinking about Frankenstein again, the novel. And I'm like, oh yeah, like how can I make this more gothic, which I like gothic horror, and so it's how can I
Well,
do that? So I'm definitely trying to.
well, my only I wouldn't say suggestion, but more like input on that is don't trap yourself into something that you later find it very difficult to undo, which is if you're not good at Latin, then you start all this
Yeah,
Latin stuff and then you find yourself trapped.
yeah. Just a few words, just to spice things, sprinkle it in for spice, make it seem a little more like spicy, a little more. But yeah,
Could be
a lot of good things to think about.
Yeah.
What's that, Robert?
I was just thinking it could be corrupt Latin. I mean, Latin
Oh,
got
hey, yeah.
very corrupted in the Middle Ages and so on.
Yeah, especially in the far future, right?
You
So
made it
yeah,
sound you made it sound a lot cooler than what it actually was. I was like prepared for the lore drop of the corrupted Latin. You know, I thought, you'd turn off the lights and candles would start up from somewhere. You've got a hood on. You're like, long ago, 300 years ago, there was an
yeah,
organization
right.
named the Sixth
Yeah,
Circle. They used the
yeah,
corrupted Latin to open the gates of Goto. Like I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
something
yeah,
was
yeah.
gonna happen right there, but nothing did.
The other option is I thought too is, these are people like sort of like dragon riders of Pern, like, that's humans that went to another planet, and then it's the far future on another planet where Earth mythology, basically there was these dragon-like creatures on this other planet, right, in Pern. But like, so if Earthlings went to that planet, and then in the future, the society degraded down to like a sort of fantasy level, medievalish level. So, but they're the dragon riders now. But these creatures are not dragons; they're creatures from another planet that humans went to and colonized, and then forgot where they came from, etc. So I haven't read Dragon Riders of Pern in ages. So, but I think that's kind of it. So it could be like you could take the remnants and scraps and perversions, for lack of a better term, of human languages from the ancient past and put it onto humans onto another planet. So, so that might be the way I go too. So it's like, I mean, I'm really enjoying this creation process of like, oh, where can I take this idea? And it's like that. Speaking of a Frankenstein's monster, you have all these tidbits and writers and notes and stuff in your brain. It is like a table full of body parts that you have to stitch together. But when you start writing, it's like the tail grows with the telling. I think Tolkien said that, right? Like the tail does grow with the telling, and until you start writing it, like the ideas start flowing to you. You have to start writing it. You can jot down as many ideas as you want, but the act of writing, the creation, like gives you even more ideas. So it's like, that's the biggest encouragement I feel like it should always be for writers. It's like, okay, I have all these great ideas and this would be cool, but until you put it into a story that other people can read, it's just body parts. You have to stitch them together so other people can
So
appreciate them. I don't know.
what's your plan next?
Yeah, I mean, well, the writing battle site is eternal, so that's like they have contests all the time. So I'm not going to go down the hole where they're like, sign up for a whole year for this much money and you can enter every contest. I'm like, no, I'm going to try to maybe do another one later in the year. But my real goal is to like write on my own and to like set a disciplined schedule again and just say, okay, expand this story. And I have ideas of who these characters are in like a greater story arc for that story to gel. So it's to write more stories to build up things and then start maybe seeing a path to a longer work, novel length or novella or something. Yeah, and take it from there. But this is like, besides this idea and like a couple others, in terms of like world building, I have like another idea for another sort of separate world. But it's like, what is making me more inspired right now is this kind of cosmology in this world. So I'm just like, yeah, maybe pursue this, maybe beef this story up, and expand it and solidify it, and then write some other of these ideas and then see where they take me. And it's a kind of an
Yeah.
adventure, and I feel like over time we can lose that as writers. Like we put so much of a demand on ourselves. Like it's just the sheer joy of the creation and the passion for it that ebbs and flows. And I really feel like that's been my kryptonite my whole life, is the procrastination and the self-doubt. I guess every aspiring writer goes through that, but it's just remembering, like going back and just the sheer wonder and joy of just the creative process and the writing process is vital to, and it's like you have to keep going. Like if you've ever read On Writing from Stephen King, it's like you have to just do it. Write. And like read, of course, but write as well. And keep your narrative blade sharp,
Yeah.
and go through. So so that's kind of where it's taking me. It's like, so yeah, so it's good to have a writing community and folks like obviously you guys and
Well,
people online.
I'm pretty inspired to continue one more short story in I don't even remember the name of the story actually. But it had what I consider to be my best character, Crane. That's all I remember. His name is Crane. The
Okay.
really awful selfish fella.
Yeah. But I mean, that's
So
the thing.
long
It's like,
ago.
it's having a community. Yeah. So it's like, dig him back up, revive him. If you feel like he deserves to breathe again and, to live again, give him, you are the creator, give him life, give Crane
Does he
life
does he
again.
deserve it? No. Is he going to? Yes.
Yeah. So it really is like, and I think you need accountability partners. You need a writing group of people to like kind
Yeah.
of say, okay, we're going to read some work, and you write with the door closed first. You have your first draft and maybe do a rewrite, and then you write with the door open, as Stephen King says. You give it to other people, so it's to review and to give you ideas. So it's nurturing a story. It's not just a product to like pound out and like, I need to get all these stories done. It's like they need to be loved and crafted and massaged and like, you know, passed around, and then finalize it hopefully and get it out there. So I would love to do more of that with you and with you guys and other people,
Right.
have a writers group. So
Yeah.
so
I will have
onward.
to. I will have to actually dig out the story. I don't even remember the title. All I know is, um, the fact that Nikki hated that character tells me it was a great character.
Yeah.
There you go. If Nikki hates it, it must be good.
That's fair. So that's what my
But
mom
yeah,
always said.
yeah. But yeah, guys. I mean, I don't know any other
Yeah,
thoughts
that's
on the
all. That's all the
pieces.
questions I have, man. Overall, I think
Yeah.
it was great what you have managed to do in 1 week, 2,000 words, and all these restrictions that you had.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
nowadays, as Nikki suggested, maybe to have it, what can be done to make it live on its own merits beyond all of that context, right? Like, what can be done to expand it and have it breathe on its own beyond
Yeah.
those? Because the average reader, you don't want to give them, oh, by the way, you know, before you read the story, it was done under these conditions. That's not art. That's just like a contest, right? So it's how can I
Yeah,
make it
well, I
live
mean,
my creation?
there's nothing stopping you from taking that story that you have already
Exactly.
done and then
Exactly.
polishing it, right? Yeah. Or
Yeah, I really
do,
felt like this was
or do it like Robert E. Howard or Clark Ashton Smith, and then just write another story in that universe.
yeah, it could. What happens next with Jorgin? What is the fate of Jorgin? Like, Robert said, Robert was like wondering what happened at the end, right? What's the plan here and
It
what
could be like a
happened? So
prologue. We never meet Jorgen again,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely. Like what
Or could
happens?
be
Like,
that we
does he
do.
become what? Yeah, yeah. Who does he become? What does he become? Right.
What's in the
So
box?
hmm
what's in the box? Right. So yeah. So it's definitely. I'm excited, and thanks again, guys, for adding
cool.
to that excitement. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was very invigorating. Thanks for sharing your story with us, Anthony. And do we have any last words?
I think it was a
Yeah,
great story. Yeah, go on.
yeah. Just want to say, to me, it was science fiction, but I can see why some people might class it as fantasy. But psychic
I think it's a
powers,
little bit of a mix.
science
Yeah.
fiction. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a mix. Science fantasy,
Mm,
I guess.
mm, yeah.
All right.
Cool. Do
All
I
right.
do I get a number or
Oh,
no?
do you want a number?
We can forgo that if like, hey, that's up to you. Hey, that's the tradition,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Plant
Nikki,
some
do
numbers.
you have a number?
Do I get
You
a
made
vote
me
for
go
the?
first, didn't you?
Of course.
I make it. I give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. I think it was very well
Oh,
done.
I'll take it.
Um,
Mm,
I would give it more, but I think that there is a lot of stuff that you can do better because I know you're very good at writing, right?
Thank you.
So it's more of a like nice, but I know you have got it more. I've got more. You've got more in you, 100% more, and that's what I
Okay.
want to see. So it's a seven and a
Cool.
half.
Okay.
mm.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Robert.
Right. Well, it depends which reading I choose. If I choose the second reading, I would give it 9.5 because I think it's almost, apart from that one grammatical slip, almost perfect. The first
Awesome.
reading, I would perhaps have just given it a Nicky type score, 7.5, because I wasn't quite so on the ball as a reader on that first run through.
Cool.
So anyway, let the second one stand, 9.5.
Thank you. Awesome.
I'll give it a.
Excellent.
I'll give it a. I'll tell you what. I'll give it an 8. Just because.
I have the lowest
Yes.
score. Yeah.
Just
That's the
because.
difference.
Just because of the restrictions that you're under, right? Like, I don't know that I can do any better in 1 week with some of the most boring prompts I can ever think of. You know,
Yeah.
a museum,
Yeah.
a ferryman, and a what? A heist.
And a heist. Yeah. Yeah.
Those
yeah.
are some really boring prompts, man. I can't get excited about that.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for turning it around. That's my score.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Okay,
Cool.
and for that we are done for today. Merry Christmas and Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas to all.
Yep.
And a happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and happy holidays and all that. And thank you guys, and everyone be well out there.
All right.
Read and write.